So I'm not sure where this is going to go today. We were talking in the green room about something that I talked about that I didn't want to talk about, but it's indicative of awareness by others who are coming in our direction that didn't really know, had heard about us somehow. I was pleasantly surprised and a little shocked that there are others that are watching these podcasts that we weren't aware of. And now we know that there are others that have been watching this podcast that we were not aware of and who they were and what they were. And it's just what we were talking about before is it's indicative of people, even within the government, they're good people that have the same questions and concerns like the rest of us do, and they're at a loss. And now it appears that none of these agencies are talking to one another. And it's just the problem's compounding. So a long time ago, when this opened up, I had wondered, got almost immediately after when I saw Kumo, I thought, when would it be that, some government agency is going to knock on my door and want to ask me questions? And surprisingly hasn't happened yet, but it's getting closer. I can tell it's getting closer. Dave has been more in that realm, but he's had connections with ex-military. His family was military. He certainly worked in law enforcement, so he understands that circle of friends. And now that a little bit more is leaking out, these people feel comfortable to go and have these conversations with Dave. And so they pick these times when he can sit out in the back. He's got a wonderful little garden out next to the pie shop, and that's where they sit and exchange photos to here's what I've got, what do you got? And um, their their vibration is such that they know that there's something extraordinary here, but they don't resonate at our level yet. They don't know what this is. And so first it's likely that you're going to have a fear of flight response because that's how we're programmed. So we have to help people get past that point first. And so bless Dave, I will say this out loud because in the long run he's going to develop this for others. Now that I have a real great appreciation for his contact, especially here on the surface with other, beyond sentient beings, there is a protocol about, how to communicate with them, what to do, what not to do. And, more importantly, how to prepare people for this. So at first contact, they don't freak out. So he is in the process of writing protocols for each one of these, beings that he's had experience with. And his intent is, to make that available for all of us, especially within, agencies that don't have no idea what to expect, but sooner or later you're going to be faced with this. It's not about an invasion. This is not an invasion. Let's just stop and consider that for a moment. If we thought for one moment that off planet beings were going to invade us, that would have been done long before now. Certainly, they have the technology superior to ours to do that if they had the wherewithal and the interest and the intention to do that, but they are not. They are here. And I'm talking beyond, the negative influences that we've had, because we did. But I would say this, they're no longer here, with that influence any longer. We're still working through the residue they left behind and all that dark matter that needs to be transmuted. Something I'm counting on is softening everybody's heart space and making them curious about the things that they don't understand. That's what I'm holding out for. And really, those are the ones that I'll stop and spend some of my attention with. The rest of them, there's enough for us that are in the loop already. And it's just a small group, but look at how powerful you are if you consider how much space you're holding for all the rest of those people that don't get it yet. Yeah, it's really important. You don't have to do one thing other than just let your light out. And that is enough um, light anchoring to offset a lot of those people that just aren't awake yet. I had higher hopes really toward the end when um, the actual shift manifests and takes place. I had convinced myself that a greater percentage of humanity will make it. In all honesty, I don't know that the number's as high as I have in my head, just with the interactions that have been going on lately. That there's, I'm uh, in my wherewithal, it's that mentality of the people around me. We think that way. And so I just assume that it's going to be soon that everybody will begin to think that way. And we're far from that. It's hard to have these conversations. There was somebody had responded to, I think the last time Dave and I did something, she responded yesterday. Now she's been, following me for a few years now. And somehow, she went to follow her own path. Well, something brought her back. And she said, it was like, this is something's new. Yes, I heard about your story in Telos years ago, and I kind of followed you, and then all of a sudden I saw you with Lily Nova, and something else triggered, and now there's like she has an advanced level of awareness of what is going on, and I, for those that don't get it yet, I don't know that they're ever going to get it. And they're not supposed to. Not for me to say. It's not for me to hope that you're all going to get it. I do. But you have your own lessons and your own journey. They're playing out for reasons that I don't understand. And it's not up to me to decide. I'm more interested if I had something I would ask everyone to do for me, it's to realize your own freaking sovereignty and take it back and stop letting all this outside influence take you over. And when you do that, you'll be able to settle with yourself enough and find whatever gift it is that you have to contribute because it's different from everybody else. Dave and I were talking about the first thing that everybody needs to do if we were going back to the military and the government. Meditation would be the first thing that you all need to learn. First, get in touch with that part of yourself so you can have a comprehension of what we're talking about. And then the doors will open up on their own. You'll ask others to kind of get a framework. But once you can finally connect with what's inside of you already, my work is done. Now it's up to you to just kind of take a hold of what you got. And the rest of the tribe is going to show up. And now you begin to you compare your journey to others' journeys, not to look necessarily for overlap or duplication, because that's not what it is. You just see how you fit in with the scheme of things. And so until the day comes that whatever that trigger is, that gets individuals to be curious about what's inside of themselves, they're just stuck. I wish it wasn't that way. It's not that the third dimensional world still doesn't revolve around me and I see it and witness it. And if you were to just focus on what the media serves up, you could get entrenched in that for a long time. But I understand I'm a co-creator and my thoughts are the things that I bring into my reality. And so I don't want to spend my time on that because I'm not interested in bringing that in. But that was, wow. Those were some dots I had to connect all by myself. So it didn't get to that point again. I wish everybody could kind of start themselves to that. So It's until you go through it yourself, no amount of listening to somebody else try to tell you the 1, 2, 3 process to get there. That just doesn't exist. Um, you got to find your own way there. Be sovereign. That's what I'm looking for. So it won't be long before Earth's consciousness, that's just part of the fabric where we know we're sovereign, but we also know we're connected to everybody else, and we monitor our behavior accordingly. Um, that's in a perfect world, but we're going to that space. I'm just trying to articulate the way there. So, who else has something on their mind? Paula reached out a few days ago and thinks that we need to do, as a matter of fact, meditatively speaking, another collective effort like that. And I agree. So, you're a leader within this group. All you have to do is say, here's the day and time that we should do this, and we can help make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. How do the rest of you feel about that? I feel like a meditation at this time would be. I heard this somebody talking about there was a group of people that were meditating in this area that was pretty riddled with crime and chaos, some city. And they were in a building and they were purposely meditating for the benefit of bringing some calm and peace to that area that had a lot of chaos in it. And they did report during the time that they were doing meditation that that area did reduce the amount of crimes and the amount of emergency room visits by like 30% just by meditating. Of course, nobody knew that they were there, right? No, there was no advertisement, hey, we're meditating over here in your neighborhood. Just to be a cooperative component to something peaceful and orderly and calm, So I think that would be wise at this juncture. Maybe it would have more of an impact than we realize in terms of shifting somebody,
Who can tell?
Yeah.
People that want to be involved in meditation are already plugged into that mindset.
Oh, no, I mean, people
know.
that might be affected by the meditation
Oh,
inadvertently, possibly.
When I learned TM, Transcendental Meditation, there have been lots and lots of scientific studies done all over the planet on the effect, first of all, of TM personally. Then they measured in these areas where there were, high crime or, the tolerance for problems, the veil was thin, that they measured and had intentional group meditations, just like what you were describing. And when the group meditated, you're right, measurably the impact that had on the social environment there, crime dropped, people's health got better, and they didn't do anything. But that group of collective people there, absolutely, that's where a small fraction can make an impact on a much larger area. Yeah, I've seen those studies. In fact, it came across my path again a couple of days ago because I see transcendental meditation, stuff. I still sign up and get their emails. But I always remembered back when there was a point in which, and I don't know where their funding came from, but I know that there's been tens of millions of dollars that have been given to TM to do these scientific studies. And without fail, every time there was an improvement in somebody's health, wherewithal, and then we understood when the outcome of when these were group efforts. And yeah, that's undeniable. During my training, I was there with 4 other people, and I could tell the difference when I was meditating with those groups over those days, as opposed to what the difference was when I was meditating alone. Oh, yeah. there was a difference. And so until you get to experience those things, you really don't have any awareness of it. But man, I love the idea that Dave said the other day that everybody needs to learn how to meditate first. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And just to double back on what you're talking about with, you know, you have this anticipation that everybody just has their time to wake up, and it's just some people earlier, some people later, but for everybody, right? And I can tell you that when I was meditating that time and the voices from Talos came in particular, my spirit guide speaking to me, telling me what was going to be happening in the near future. I did ask, well, how many will be moving forward? I can't remember the exact terminology because it was telepathic, but to your point, I don't want to say the numbers, but lower.
It wasn't 100%, was it?
No, it was,
No.
I remember specifically reacting to say quickly, well, how many? Like it was like, it just poured out of me, how many? And then the number was lower. Yeah, it was low. So, with the anticipation based on what they said. So
Can't
just
let
I
that
wanted
get
to
in the way
confirm
of
if you had that
your
intuitive
work.
feeling about that. I wanted to kind of confirm on my end what I was experienced.
At first, when I had a real comprehension of the ascension process and really understood what was going to happen, um, I thought the number was less than 50%. And then over time, as you know, it looked like as this information was getting out there and I was beginning to, be in this community, I had higher hopes for it. It just seemed like it was different. And then when you began to understand the players in this community, that they're not all that heart centered, well, then you have to kind of step back and recount all of a sudden, because these people that are talking about love and light, in the same breath, will call somebody a fucktard. Yeah, yes, it's troublesome, and you have to put that into check. So even those people, my point is, even the people that I thought was on the same kind of wavelength I was on, yeah, they're not there yet. They have an awareness of it, but they're not there yet. It looks like you have something to contribute, Irene.
Yeah. Yeah, I love these conversations because I appreciate so much that we are here exactly sharing our own unique journey, but at the same time, we chose to meet each other, we chose to see each other, we chose to be born in these specific times, in specific places. The people who are watching us, you chose to be involved with us. Your energy is involved in this conversation. And I love that. I think also kind of to soften, because when I heard these messages 30 years ago, I was just in my early 20s, and I'm like, what why didn't I know that before? Why didn't anybody tell this? Why didn't my mom tell me? Why didn't they tell me in school? It's like, am I behind now? It's like, I don't know how I even fit in the stories, because I heard this already 30 years ago. And this is not this is how I love to see that it's beyond our lifetime what is happening. But at the same time, you, Lowell, you have your experience now. For you, it's right. It's been literally in your face. You walked through the veil. So it's extremely now for you. And it's kind of happened a couple of years ago, but it's still now. And I can see kind of a sadness, which I carry, because it's so present now, but it's such a vast distance from where most people are at now. But when you literally look with your eyes and see the world, but at the same time, I feel like this morning, for instance, I woke up and I'm like, wow, I feel so, I don't want to say happy, because it's not it's not even, you cannot even describe that sensation, but I feel like I literally entered a new world. I mean, I saw my neighbors, they're the same, but I feel completely different. I look the same, but I feel different. I woke up differently, like I entered a new reality. So a big part of my being, or my being, me, I feel I've entered a reality while I still have the same curtains, I still, it's kind of funny how that that unfoldment is taking place. And I feel the last part where we see it is is um yeah, how we are as a society, or in the most densest part. And I think this is exactly where things are falling apart, that are dysfunctional. So, and I want to emphasize about, it seems, feels, when I heard like there's only going to be a whatever percentage making it. But for one, ever since humanity was here in this kind of setup, there has always been war. So there's nothing new to the story. There's always been wars, and maybe even worse than now. So that's one thing. It's just, it's always now, everything comes to us right in our face. For one, because we have internet and we can see it. But at the same time, without even the internet, we do, as a humanity, have risen our vibration. So we do become more sensitive. So we will feel if somebody's hurt, you will feel it too. Why would you think that so many people are on antidepressants, on painkillers, and whatever? It's because you feel
Mhm.
it's, when you're here and there's war, or you're, whoever is upset or angry with you, or you're, even if a teacher is in kindergarten is shouting at you, it's terror. And so it's kind of interesting talking about protocols, how we need to deal with extraterrestrials. How, what if we are beings from other planets and we are raking up inside us? Don't we think we want a protocol how to be among one another? About spiritual people, I never understood spiritual. I mean, we're, it's not separate. We are spirit in human form. That's it. It's not, I believe in spirituality. Who cares? I don't believe in anything in that sense. It's, I don't need to believe. It's just a true experience. I can imagine, and I have a imagination, but it's a creation force. Um, and everybody has that. And there's a time delay in that, because if you really manifest everything you're thinking badly about, well, that's not really a good thing for now.
I just saw that right before the podcast. So I feel like I need to remark on it that if we have the ability to bring things immediately into our awareness, like you can in the higher realms, what kind of chaos would that create here? We would not be able to handle that kind of change that rapidly and have the environment around us adapt as well. I get it.
Yeah, and all of us are being reminded. I remember when I was a child, and I'm just sharing it because for people who listen also, go back to your childhood, listen to the stories about fairy tales, or whatever bedtime stories you were told, or whatever was captivating you. Or maybe like, for instance, I had an older brother, and he had like this collection of little whatever little pictures. And then I saw the Jedi. I'm like, the Jedi, like the snowman is like, oh, I like they're real. My brother had it, whatever. No, I was fascinated. Or Native American, I was fascinated with that. And I would look at the horizon. I'm from the Netherlands. I would look at the horizon because I heard the Americas was really far away. And I look at the horizon, it's like, this is America. That's where my people live. That's where I come from. I don't know. Anyway, but and also like this story what I remember talking about manifesting. There was this story about a man that was not in a good marriage, and he was and then he met like a fairy or something, and he said you can make three wishes, and one is like something about his wife, or like you're going to grow sausages on your nose or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, my wife is now gone. I have sausages on my nose, and he only could do 3 wishes. And he says the third wish, I wish everything came back to normal again. And for me, I remembered, it really struck something in me. It woke something up in me. It's like, I have to be careful with my thoughts. What if I could only do 1 wish, even 1 wish? What is it that I would want in this world? Why am I here, and what would I really want? And I started praying as a child, a 3-year-old. And I was really like, I really wanted to have, I don't even know what, I know what I want. I cannot put it into words, but this is what I want. And I send it out to the entire world. And this is what I wish for everybody, and it's always happening. It's going to manifest no matter what. And so I was keep on refining my wishes. And but actually I turned a bit afraid. I didn't know there was a delay. Became afraid of my thoughts. I didn't want to think bad thoughts. So I kind of like became punishing myself for it. But anyway, but it's true. But we're slowly moving towards it. But then you become so sensitive, because when I get angry, the first one who feels it is me. It's like, oh, my body doesn't want to feel anger. Sometimes it's good to say like no, to be like have a valor, like no, you shall not pass. It's done. But that becomes like a force. But when you're kind of like frustrated and it holds in your body, or like being that doesn't feel good anymore. And I feel everybody's at that point right now. It's just people don't want to feel it because it's too painful. So it's also daring to be human and feel the feelings, because that's where you can transmute it. And then another thing about not to worry about people not making it, because there's a natural thing. If you see how many people don't even want to have kids anymore, and we start to slowly moving towards what people do in Telos. You don't need to have children. It's like it becomes a group thing. That's why you have people are getting married, they get divorced, and then you have like two couples who raise all the kids, and there's like it's a whole group of kids that they will go everywhere and they have fun. Actually, it's not a problem of the kids. They have more elders to be raised by. Don't make it a problem. We keep on making.
Well, I'm not as surprised when you really stop to think about that we're all here. We're on our own evolutionary paths.
Yeah.
And so during this lifetime, my interests are going to change.
Yeah.
I'm going to find other people that have common interests with me along the way. And, some of those people are going to fall away along the way. Why isn't it reasonable for us to think that that could happen with our spouses as well?
Yeah.
That it doesn't make them bad people. It means that their journey and their interests are going off in a direction that serves them, and we should want that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they align with us anymore. When we can see that, man, that's a lot more healthy a way to go about things. And the people that kind of interact in and out of your life, we're seeing that's a 4th and 5th dimensional principle we're trying to apply in the 3rd dimension.
Yeah.
And so we can be aware of it, but that's just that's a feeling. I'm glad that you kind of went in that direction, because it goes beyond our physicality.
Yeah.
When we start to feel the things around us and communicate with others on that level, can't really put words to it yet, but that it takes on different significance, and it is authentic and genuine. That are the 2 things that I know for certain about it, that I can count on what I get out of that.
Yeah. And two minor things, because it feels like a completion, because also it makes it much more bearable for your human part to start seeing it in a different way. Like, for instance, I had to let go of my love of my life. It's been really excruciatingly painful, because I could see the high potential that we could manifest in this life. And he chose with his own conscious or not, doesn't matter, even a different path. It's excruciatingly painful because it felt like my world fell apart, literally, financially, in all kind of ways. But that also has been really humbling for me. And at the same time, also letting go of my expectations, because it's still, again, what you keep on emphasizing, it's your own journey. And then and so it's very delicate. And I look at it now like, wow, he chose different building blocks, different parts to dismantle the old and build up the new. He chose his own path with that. So in that sense, there's nothing really lost. He chose his own dismantling and his own building block to build it all up. Who am I to not honor that? You know? And then you can see, wow, this is actually really beautiful, let alone all the learning stuff. But that's kind of becomes minor, then you start to see more a totality of things. And then the last part I want to share about when you feel fearful about humanity, becomes less. But what if you believe in incarnation? What if you are right, your incarnated now with 1,000 others of you? It's possible. So what if some people die and whatever, but it's still part of your soul is still there. So what if it's not necessary to have multiple parts of you here anymore? It's a natural unfoldment then. So it's also very natural that there at some moment, like now, it's a divine order. And I call it divine order. It's natural. You can call it also, it's natural for now that we are with so many. It's the same when there is when when you think, I'm gonna cut this tree, or I think I should throw away this plant because it's not growing anymore. Guess what it's doing? It starts to bloom like crazy. It starts to sow seeds because it wants to survive. It's what's happening in the planet. We've never been with so many now, and there's other reasons for it too, because we have all our mix of DNA. It's never been so much blends of DNA as now. So it's part of a survival, meaning a survival in a beautiful way. It's about the continuation of creation in a new direction. And at some moment that's not needed anymore. It's not like destruction just because we're doing such crazy things. Yeah, we do crazy things. Obviously, it's quite clear. But creation has got our back still. And it's not that you're not gonna go. You learn your lessons, though, definitely. It's not like, oh, if creation is doing it for me, I don't know, I don't need to do it. And you're kind of like missing the point. But anyway, that's what I was gonna share about it. So thank you.
Christine, do you have an observation?
I do. Well, I think when I told you I went to Mount Shasta the first night, I felt like a really deep release and just kind of like a letting go. And since then, every time something comes up that's frustrating or, starts to get me angry at somebody, or just kind of like, why would they do that? Or blah, blah, blah. Something came up in my dreams a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, I am them, that's me too. Like, whenever they have a negative reaction, I'm like, I can do that too. I'm that as well. And so now it's like every time something comes up, I shifted into thinking, I am them, they are me, and we are one. And it's changed my perspective on just about, like, I feel it all day long, that mantra, if you want to call it that, going through me. So when everybody is like, oh, it's a book that caused, there's like a sexual harassment thing that happened in our schools. And they're like, it's a book. And I'm like, I can't believe she's blaming that on a book. And then I was like, I can blame things on stupid things too. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I just start to see myself in that other person all the time now, no matter what it is.
First, you need to learn to become an observer of your behavior. And until you can do that, you got no framework to answer any of these questions you might have. Then secondly, the phrase that keeps going through my head every time I observe people communicating is that what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves. And when you let that really sink in, you'll stop yourself before you let yourself go too far, because you want to know what the hell triggered you, because it wasn't them. When I run into, some of the people I grew up with, they're still stuck in the same place, looking to blame something or somebody for where they are, instead of looking at themselves, and maybe just a change in your perspective might change this whole situation for you. They're just stuck where they are. And I was in a relationship like that for a while. Someone that I had known long before. And I kept watching the same pattern. And it wasn't that, there wasn't, there's magic that she was connected to. She understood it, things beyond herself that she got answers to, that she knew came from something higher than herself. But the conditioning that she has had over her lifetimes, you can see what imprint they've left behind. And although she's aware and she's working on it, much of this is just reflex now. And it's not that that her mind engages in this way before, she blurts out what it is. I still don't think that she embraces the idea that she's connected to everybody else. We are. Throughout every incarnation, we go back and we get to see everybody else we're connected to before we come back in here. And we, learn this set of lessons that we chose during this particular incarnation. Some of these people that I knew I'll come in contact with, some of them I won't, because I'm connected to all of them. But we don't know that when we come into this incarnation until somebody's reminded us of the whole idea that there are incarnations first. Because then if you accept that piece of information, then we can pursue you understanding what happened in your past lives, because you've had a few. I read this, I've been drawn to, Manly P. Hall, if you know who he is, and Edward Casey, Dolores Cannon. I've been, listening to people that have had their own experiences, and they've been next to other experiencers. I really want to hear what their perspective is, and I don't know why I keep getting drawn to them, but I do. So during one of Manly Hall's lectures, he put a number to the number of human incarnations we have on this planet, and he said there are 800. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly gives you something to consider when you go, well, I wonder how many incarnations I did have, because I know that I've spent time in other civilizations, just like you all have. Part of it's what drew us together. Lemuria was a trigger for a lot of us. The fact that, we triggered the word telos and we didn't know what it was, here we are. And I can't forget that there's Atlantean influences. I don't want that overshadowed by the fact that we think that it was on Atlantis' watch that all of this fell apart. That's true to a degree. But just like we were talking about before, not everybody in the government, there are good people there too. There are good Atlanteans waiting to, share what they know too beneath the surface, just like there were Lemurians and, countless other civilizations that are just waiting for, well, they've been waiting for us to get our shit together. And in the time allotted, I don't know that we were successful in doing that to the degree that we could have for the planet. There's a shift coming, a reset for the planet that's going to answer all of these things once and for all. And it's not going to be contingent on whether we all kumbaya together or not. No, we're beyond that point. So, the information we're sharing now is to help people prepare for that moment. That is, why we're here.
So funny. I'm listening to Dolores Cannon's third convoluted universe. I've listened to 1, 2, and now I'm on 3 from, and I'm drawn to it as well. It's really good information.
It's comforting. Again, when you listen to that, just to see what kind of an archive that is. Somebody had suggested this past week that these podcasts that we have now, put on YouTube are an archive of this kind of information. I'm still thrilled when I see comments that picked out things that Irene said or Paula said, and there are people say that about them, that there was something that they had said during the conversation that triggered somebody else. That's how it's going to happen. We're not the people on the corner standing on a box shouting about Jesus and whether you found him or not yet. We've got some knowledge that others are starting to tack into, but we're not out there looking for them. They'll find us. And then it's our opportunity to, again, just share our parts of it, not necessarily to guide them anywhere. I don't consider myself a guide so much as I am more of a connector. Yeah. Here's the tribe that comes. I just happen to be, kind of the hub. And, it's not like this is a direct, and you're all spokes. Y'all have your hubs of your own places too, and have influences on the people that are in your orbit. And so now it's just wonderful when they all kind of come through. Last week when Michaela showed up and her friend, I can't remember her name, but just see how the tribe continues to show up. And there's just like they belong here. So when I was watching that phenomenon and just feeling how wonderful it was when the next person showed up that vibrated, that was when I had a greater hope that everyone's going to feel this way sooner or later. And the number I had in my mind was way north of 90% of I thought humanity was going to make it. And honestly, given what I know about the nature of things and how we got there and what dark energy, we're still trying to transmute, they're just stuck where they are. And they're not going to give way. Not that that's a huge majority of, the population. It only takes a small fraction to make a lot of noise like we're going through right now. If you believe in the 1% and how they want to hang on to power and wealth and all that, maybe that's a good kind of number to use in your head. But they're not giving up. No, they're comfortable with what they've had for a while, and they're not interested in giving that away. We'll see whether their hearts ever melt, or whether they are just destined to entropy away when the time comes and finish their 3D lessons somewhere else. Time will tell. Paula dashed off because she's in Texas, and it was time for the eclipse to kind of float over her area, so she dashed to go see. I got up in time to do that, and of course, it's overcast here today. So yeah, I'm not going to get to witness it, but I can certainly sense its energy. Holy crap. So
Yeah,
anybody else? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say Paula had said something on a podcast, one that I couldn't make. And she said, when we say things like, oh, I'm doing my 3D work. And then she was like, we should bring in that heart space into that 3D work, which is the 4D and 5. And that really hit me. Do you know what I mean? Because I've said that to you. I'm like, oh, I hate to be 3D about, whatever. But having that heart space with it as well is something that she said that really stuck with me. And Irene, I love it when you swear on this podcast because you have the sweetest voice. And then you say fuck, and it makes me laugh. So
I guess my spirit wants to do it on purpose, just to break something open.
We have lots of ways to express ourselves, and we don't want to neglect that one because that word comes in handy every now and then. We're meant to use that, but I am looking forward to the day when we don't speak to one another this way. With words, I mean, not in negative terms.
I wasn't raised this way. It's
Well,
not
I
it's not an apology.
My father he was pretty good with he knew how to use all those nasty words. And even when I was younger, um, I was appalled by it. I didn't see myself talking that way because I didn't think that was the way that people talk to one another civilly. Of course, as I got older, I started to talk a little more like my dad, and it's I'm less tied to the way we talk to one another now because throughout my lifetime, the way that I was taught proper English and cursive writing and the way that we were taught to communicate in that way. And then all of a sudden there was a period where, I don't know, my kids were starting to talk in anagrams. And how'd that happen? So look, if you can still understand what they're saying, maybe we didn't need to get all that hung up on the way that they said it, because everybody, if they are unique and have their own way of expressing themselves, how am I supposed to get in the way of that? Is everything right or wrong? Well, no, not really.
Yeah, and I think that's where it becomes so you can start to see how important it is to feel people's intent and not to get caught up, because that's where the mind, like, oh, she said this, he said that. Who cares? It's about what is your, because people can get stuck in yes, no, but feel the feeling. There's so much more we're truly saying. I saw that as a child too, when adults were arguing. It's like you actually mean exactly the same thing. It's just your mind, the way you talk is just get you caught up in stuff. Express your feelings and then you love each other.
Well, when
It's
Christine
different
made her
language.
remarks, well, what occurred to me, and I'm thankful for it, that we see beyond, the third dimensional stuff. We see things from a higher perspective. And so that's the perspective that we're offering people. Not telling you how it is. This is what I see from a higher realm. And that gives me such great comfort because that's how I know you're already there. You have ascended to that level to be able to talk about it and speak intelligently about it, or you wouldn't. You'd still be in the dark, kind of wading your way around in this three-dimensional world, but we don't. And the more I hear the tribe speak in those terms, I'm just grateful for when we get to have these conversations, because it's not what the rest of the world's talking about during the week. No, it's good.
Yeah.
So thank you all for addressing the metaphysical side of yourself that have been waiting to be acknowledged.
Yeah, and it's still a
So,
journey.
go ahead. I'm going to let you close, Irene, because I think we're good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it's still a journey. I mean, there's ups and downs, you sometimes you feel more like in this presence and you're completely like nothing can do any harm. And sometimes you do, because and I feel when you catch yourself like swearing or whatever, or being upset, it's okay because you catch yourself and then you find something else to be able to transmute. That's all. That it's an influx of your being. There keeps on coming in more of light. It's light. The light is activating us. So we become, and that's good because then our body gets activated, and so our consciousness can then express more. And it's a process. Where some people can wake up very quickly, and that's because they have a specific role to play. But it doesn't mean it's because it, and we're taught in school, learn everyone, 1 + 1 is 2. Repeat the teacher, 1 + 1 is 2. It's like one what, We are multidimensional. It's 2. And then what? And then what do you do? It's just like this. What does this figure mean? Whatever. Anyway, but we're multidimensional. So it's really leave all the stuff behind about I'm behind, I'm ahead, I'm whatever. You're all over the place, I mean, it's good that you're exactly there. There's nothing wrong. It's good that your parent is your parent, that your neighbor is your neighbor. It's kind of like don't interfere with creation. It's beautiful. It's pristine. Don't interfere with it. Don't interfere. I don't want to interfere my thoughts. And when I see, okay, I'm not responsible for anything outside of me. I'm responsible for my own presence and my own thoughts and my own feelings and my own availability to what it is that I'm here for. It's none of anybody's business, actually. But at the same time, it is everybody's business. Because if I'm doing good, like it's with everybody, if you feel well, everybody feels well. If you feel well, you have the world, and it's the same for everybody. That's where it gets exciting, and that's where we start to like now we find each other because we resonate with something deep, and it's another building block for others to find us or to find yourself and expand further. So
Okay, Paula, we were waiting for you to show back up so you can close this hour out. You got anything to report? Because it's overcast where I am, and I wasn't going to get to witness what hopefully you did.
Yeah, so it was just a little partial eclipse here in Austin, but the sky was clear and it just had this kind of funny feeling out there. It was like dim, but it wasn't like a sunset dim. So it was interesting. Yeah, now it's kind of going back the other way. So it just kind of had a funny dimness about it. Yeah, it was very, very cool. Interesting. The sky looked very little ominous. Yeah, I wanted to
Well,
catch it.
there's that. Anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
No, other than to say, my gosh, what a joy to be with you all again. I really look forward to having these opportunities every week. It feels a little bit like coming home. So I really enjoy it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for saying so. I agree. So, unless there's something before next Saturday, I'll see you all here then. But thanks again.
See you
Ciao.
all
thank
later.
you.
Bye.
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 Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.